Hello guys and welcome to another beautiful day. Welcome to another video, and in this video today we're gonna be looking at one of the most bizarre Bankais you will ever see in Bleach. This Bankai is by far the most unique Bankai in terms of the mechanics and how it works. It's something that I never thought Kubo could come up with, but it just proves how much of a complex writer that Kubo is, and you have to give credit to Kubo and credit to the author of the Can't Fear Your Own light novels for actually coming up with this very interesting Bankai. This Bankai has one of the craziest abilities ever, even in fiction itself. It has one of the most bizarre abilities. This ability is just out of this world. It's nothing that we've ever seen before. It's completely different, and it just shows how much of a cooldown time Kubo had after the manga to write up and to come up with this Bankai, and I'm glad that it did. Of course, before we do that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the notifications button to always be notified when I publish a video. I make 2 or 3 videos a week, not much, but we're getting there. Anyways, with the intro out of the way, let's begin. So the bizarrity of this Bankai actually begins in its Shikai. Its Shikai is as bizarre as its Bankai, but just a little toned down. Now, of course, the Shikai I'm talking about, or the Zanpakuto I'm talking about, is Hisagi's Zanpakuto, Kazeshini. We never ever saw any Shikai ability from Kazeshini or from Hisagi because Shuhei Hisagi only ever had one major fight in the entirety of Bleach, and to be honest, it's one of the best fights in Bleach. It's one of my favorite, easily in my top 5 favorite fights of Bleach, and this was against Fushinokyojo, the Fraction. And in that fight, we never saw Shuhei reveal the Shikai ability. He certainly did reveal its release, and we saw its released form, its Shikai form, which has these 2 blades, 2 weird blades, and they have this chain connecting them. Now, during that fight against Fushinokyojo, Shuhei had not learned the ability or the true ability of his Shikai, but that changes in the Can't Fear Your Own light novels. So in the final volume of the Bleach Can't Fear Your Own light novels, Shuhei is forced to make a very difficult decision, and this decision is to fight Hikone, because he knew if Hikone had continued to fight Kenpachi, then Kenpachi would have killed Hikone, and Shuhei didn't want that to happen. He had actually developed a really interesting relationship with Hikone, and he wanted Hikone to be saved, and so he decides to fight Hikone in place of Kenpachi. He literally decides to fight this opponent that is very miles and leagues above him, and immediately he confronts Hikone. You just know this was a terrible decision because Hikone instantly splits Shuhei Hisagi in half. And so after that, after the bodies of, or the 2 parts of Shuhei fall apart, Hikone is convinced that Shuhei is dead, and so he turns to continue fighting Kenpachi, but Kenpachi is just looking at Hikone, and he tells Hikone not to be too rash because it's not over. Now Hikone turns around and he sees Shuhei Hisagi standing there, and he's confused, much like I am and much like the readers were. We're confused because Shuhei was split in half like 5 or a few minutes ago, not that much, a few minutes ago, but here he is standing up, and it's revealed that when Shuhei had been split in half, basically killed by Hikone, he had entered the world of his Zanpakuto, the world of Kazeshini. Now, I cannot really describe this world, we'll have to see it animated, but the thing you have to know is that in this world, or the Zanpakuto world of Kazeshini, there's a big tree and there's a windmill. That's all you have to know, and that's all I can give you for now. And him and Kazeshini have this conversation because, as we all know, Shuhei had always hated the shape of his Zanpakuto, and he says that it looks like something that was meant to reap lives, and this really made Shuhei really scared or ashamed of his Zanpakuto because he was someone who loved to preserve lives. And Kazeshini kind of confronts him with that issue, like, I'm your Zanpakuto, so why do you shun me? Why are you ashamed of me? And Kazeshini informs Shuhei that my Zanpakuto, or I look this way, I have that shape because of you. That is you who manifested in me, so it's you who had those thoughts and who created that shape. So even if you want to protect lives, it's not my fault that I look that way, that I look like something that was meant to reap lives. It's your fault for conjuring up that shape. And Shuhei has this, moment of reflection, moment of revelation, and he kind of starts seeing things the way they are, that he's the one who created it. He's the one who made this up. The shape of his Zanpakuto is because of his spirit. He's the one who forged it that way. And Shuhei finally accepts his Zanpakuto, and he even apologizes to Kazeshini for shunning him, for always ignoring him, for never wanting to use him or to release him, and for being ashamed of the way Kazeshini looked. And in this way, he borrows Kazeshini power, the power to protect Hikone. And in that instant, Shuhei achieves his true Shikai ability. Okay, now here's where it gets interesting, so follow closely. That's if you've reached this point of the video, so follow closely. As you know, Kazeshini has 2 blades, in that it's not really a separate or dual wield Zanpakuto, it's like one long bow or something. And we learn that the most important part, the main part of Kazeshini is not the blades, it's the chains. The whole thing is in the chain. Never mind the blades are just there, but the Zanpakuto is the chain, and this chain is what connects those two blades or those two sides. And I know you're already asking, okay, so he achieved his true Shikai. What is the true ability of his Shikai? He was cut or he was killed before, and here he stands. So what is the ability of his Shikai? Now you may guess that the ability of Kazeshini is actually regeneration or whatever it is, or immortality, but that's not it. Okay, look, since the first time we were introduced to Kazeshini, we always had this, brief concept of, Soul Reaper and Death Gods and all these things. They were always looming above Kazeshini, like this Reaper thing or this Grim Reaper, it looks like something that is meant to reap lives. So what if I told you that the ability of its Shikai is actually centered around Death Gods and Shinigamis? Yes, the true ability of the Kazeshini Shikai is that it's able to actually to freely control the flow of life and death. Through the chain, Kazeshini is able to control these concepts of life and death. And that is why Shuhei Hisagi did not die even after being split in half. And that's not only it. Shuhei Hisagi was actually split in half, but through the ability of Kazeshini, it's like him being split in half never happened and he's back to normal. And all this is possible through the chain. Remember, as I told you, the main part of Kazeshini is the chain. And with these chains, he is able to freely control his life and death cycle and the life and death cycle of any other person, including the opponents. That's why you cannot kill him. So basically, ladies and gentlemen, what I've been trying to say for the last 3 minutes is that Hisagi's Zanpakuto is not the swords or the part where it cuts. Hisagi's Zanpakuto is the chain. That is what makes this unique. Oh my god, this is one of the best Zanpakutos that we have. That the Zanpakuto is the chain. Guys, there's no way you can tell me you're not excited by the fact that we have a Zanpakuto that is a chain. Anyways, now we're ready to move over to his Bankai, which I'm excited about. And boys and girls, the name of Shuhei's Bankai is Kazeshini Fushinokyojo, which loosely translates to the rope or the chain of strangulation. Even the name is badass. I mean, the rope of strangulation, it sounds like something out of the Lord of the Rings, or it sounds like an Ether Realm item on a legendary item in an RPG. You have to admit that. And anyways, I'm sorry, I'm getting carried away. It's just that I love this Bankai. And as I established before, the main ability of Kazeshini has something to do with chains. And so when Shuhei releases his Bankai, unlike in his Shikai where you would cut him and then he would fall, or you would see actually him being split in half, or his hands fall, or whatever part of him you cut, you would see it fall. But in his Bankai, when you cut Shuhei Hisagi, it's like it never happened, because the moment your sword actually cuts Hisagi, that same moment, instantaneously, Hisagi is like rebuilt or regenerated. It just comes back to normal the moment your sword leaves or ceases contact with his body. So that's the first ability, is that Shuhei is no longer, susceptible to cuts and whatever. It's like he heals immediately. The moment you cut him, it's like you never cut him, because he's back to normal immediately. And now the second part about his Bankai is that we have these chains that stretch onto the opponent, and they actually wrap themselves around the opponent. And no matter how much the opponent shreds or cuts these chains or break these chains, they just come back to normal, and they actually just entangle him even more further. And I know by now you're asking, where are these chains coming from? Are they coming from underground? Are they coming from up? And actually, yes, they're coming from up, because up above Shuhei Hisagi's head, we have this massive circle of chains that is actually big enough to block the sun, or even create a sort of an eclipse or a mini eclipse from the ground upwards. And from the ground, the Zanpakutos, or the blades that Shuhei Hisagi is holding, the chains are on the ends are connected to this dark sphere of chains. And also the chains that were entangling the opponents, that are unbreakable, that are just giving the opponent a hard time, they are also connected to this dark mass. And that doesn't even end it still, because when Shuhei points his sword upwards, we get this infinite amount of chains that shoot up from the ground, and these chains go up to the heavens, up to the clouds, and they then come together, forming this sort of a tree or a stem of chains. And this stem of chains connects the ground to the black mass, the black sphere that is levitating above Shuhei's head. And this sphere is not small, trust me. As I stressed out before, it's a massive ball of chains, massive ball of black chains, and they're moving, they're actually moving. You can see them rolling around these chains. It's like this dark circle of chains is alive, and it's honestly creepy, I'm not gonna lie. And it's creepy because even when he releases his Bankai, the atmosphere atmosphere completely changes. It's one of those Zanpakutos or Bankais that completely change the mood. It's like it brings down this heavy curtain of depression and just dark things. And even this change of the atmosphere, this change of the surrounding is part of its ability, as I will reveal later on. But now let's go back to the chains. So after everything has happened and the black chains have shoot up and have connected the black ball to the ground and everything, we have these chains that come and coil themselves around Shuhei's neck. And not only Shuhei's neck, but they also coil themselves around the opponent's neck, as they did to Hikone Ubuginu. And these chains that have tangled themselves around Hikone's and Shuhei's Hisagi's neck, they also shoot up and are connected directly to the black sphere of chains. And here is where it gets interesting and confusing. Now we get to the ability of his Bankai. Now the chains that have tangled themselves around Hikone's and Shuhei's necks are not there to add to the aesthetic or just for nothing, because these chains actually connect the Reiatsu of Shuhei and Hikone, or Shuhei and his opponent, to the black sphere. And here's why. So when you attack Shuhei, he is immediately healed. But when he's healed, what is used to heal him or to, returning him to full is the Reiatsu in the black sphere. And that Reiatsu is yours and Shuhei Hisagi's. So the more you cut Shuhei, the more Reiatsu you lose, because the more Reiatsu is being used to actually, heal Shuhei. And it's vice versa. The more Shuhei cuts you or harms you, the more his Reiatsu is used to heal, or the Reiatsu in the black sphere is used to heal you guys, or to heal any person who is connected to the black mass, the black sphere that is levitating above their heads. And again, you may ask me, anime therapy, what if Shuhei fights someone with higher Reiatsu than him? Like, let's say he fights Aizen, who is known for his unlimited or infinite mass of Reiatsu. Then here's the thing, the black mass isn't there for nothing too, because that black mass equalizes your Reiatsu with Shuhei's. This Bankai is just ridiculous. It literally takes your Reiatsu and Shuhei's Reiatsu and puts them in that black mass. So you're using the same Reiatsu. It doesn't matter if you have more Reiatsu than Shuhei. It doesn't matter if you're stronger than Shuhei. The thing is, the more you cut him, the more Reiatsu is being used to actually heal Shuhei and to heal you if Shuhei cuts you. So you have the same Reiatsu source. So if you cut him, your Reiatsu goes down. There's no ending of Reiatsu. It's literally just you're using the same thing. It's like you're in the same room with the oxygen. And it doesn't matter how strong you are. You may be stronger than Shuhei or stronger than Shuhei may be stronger than you, but the fact remains that you're breathing the same oxygen. You're in the same room. And that is basically it. That's Shuhei's Bankai. And he can trap anyone in there actually. He can trap Ichigo, he can trap Kenpachi, he can trap anyone. But I'm not saying he would win. We don't know how each one of those people would react to Shuhei being there. They may all do something that can even free themselves, or they can even destroy Shuhei's Bankai or break it. I'm not saying Shuhei is equally as strong because of his Bankai. He's certainly equally as strong. No, this only applies to the healing factor, because when you cut him, the Reiatsu, your Reiatsu is used to heal him. The Reiatsu in the black mass, which is both your Reiatsus, is used to heal him. But the difference in your attack power still remains. If Shuhei traps Ichigo in his Bankai, Ichigo is still much stronger than Shuhei, and he can even erase Shuhei from existence with one swipe of his sword. Ichigo is still stronger in attack power than Shuhei, and that doesn't even change his durability too. Ichigo is more durable than Shuhei, even though they are in there. The only thing that changes is that whenever you destroy him, whenever you cut him, your Reiatsu, the both of your Reiatsus, are used to heal him. Shuhei's Bankai is literally the ultimate equalizer. It equalizes your chances of survival. The more you cut him, the more he's healed, because he's just using your Reiatsu and his Reiatsu. You're using the same source of Reiatsu. Shuhei cannot run out of Reiatsu faster than you or before you, and you cannot run out of Reiatsu before Shuhei. You're using the same thing. It's like having the same source of power. And Shuhei's Bankai, what it does, I remember when I mentioned about the environment thing. So what Shuhei's Bankai does is that it creates this environment where life and death are both the same, and this environment is powered by the black mass, which has your Reiatsu. And when it creates this environment, there is no death, there is no life, there just is nothing. There's stagnation. It's almost like everything has stopped. And the environment Shuhei's Bankai created was actually confirmed to be the same environment as there was in the old Bleach world before the division, or before the partition of the Bleach world. As I've mentioned in my previous two videos, there there was no life, there was no death. It was just, you know, all things mashed into together. And this is the environment that Shuhei's Bankai creates. And what powers this environment, as I said, is a black mass. The more you cut Shuhei, he's just gonna get healed. And what heals him is the power of your Reiatsu, both your Reiatsus which have been connected to that black sphere, and they're both distributed equally. So Shuhei cannot run out of Reiatsu before you, and you cannot run out of Reiatsu before Shuhei. Now the thing is that you may actually end up killing Shuhei, but you will also end up killing yourself. And the same, Shuhei will end up killing you, but he will also die. So this Bankai, when it's released, and if no one is there, unless Shuhei actually releases his Bankai, you can actually both of you can get trapped in that Bankai. And if you don't know and you just go ahead and slash him, you will both end up dying. So this Bankai is sort of a suicide Bankai, and one of the most bizarre Bankais I've ever seen. And it's noted in the light novels that the perfect situation to use this Bankai is when Shuhei has his friends nearby. So because when he releases his Bankai, you're both out of Reiatsu, and when he releases his Bankai, then his allies can come and finish you off or finish off the opponent. And I believe that's it for Shuhei's Bankai. I went in depth on its abilities, its Shikai, its weaknesses, and its strength. And this is one of the, and I repeat, this is one of the best Bankais that we have in Bleach. The way it works is very unique. This is a suicide Bankai. The both of you might end up dying unless Shuhei has a plan, and he can just tell his friends, I'll be here, I'll be fighting this. When I release my Bankai, come and end this guy. And that's literally a good thing. It's a really good thing for taking down strong opponents. But everything changes when the opponent decides not to attack. But even if it does, then that means Shuhei can just attack and end up depleting both your Reiatsus. And this video will be a long video, so I'm just gonna end it right here. I really hope you enjoyed it. I hope you watched till the end, and now you have an understanding on Shuhei's Bankai. I mean, there are a lot of videos out there explaining his Bankai, but none of them go in depth as I have. So I believe you learned one or two things in this video that you didn't learn in other videos. And if you did, subscribe, give the video a like, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.